And it's been another active day across Kentucky with more rounds of showers and thunderstorms with heavy rain showing up all over the place. We're going to track these storms out of town tonight, but more chances over the next few days.
Part of a Powell County neighborhood is covered in an oily substance tonight. What investigators say caused the mess.
What state leaders say is causing the sudden surge in the number of children in Kentucky's foster care system.
WKYT News starts now with First Alert Weather.
Good evening. Storms are rolling across much of Kentucky tonight, and they're packed with more heavy rain.
And you can see all of that rain that we are tracking right now for you on the Defender Radar Network. We're also keeping an eye on the threat for flash flooding. We begin tonight with meteorologist Jim Caldwell on this WKYT First Alert Severe Weather Day.
And you could see it right there on radar. Here's what it actually looks like in Lexington right now. We're looking back toward the west where those thunderstorms are lining up and marching right toward us here on the east end of town, and we have plenty of them rolling into this area. That's what it looks like there. Right now we are sitting at 77 degrees with the thunderstorms in town. Here's what it looks like on our Defender Radar Network. Up close and personal, a lot of lightning showing up back toward Commonwealth Stadium and back into the middle of town, and then more heavy rains into southern sections of Fayette County as well, where we picked up right around, according to radar estimates, better than an inch, maybe up to right around 1.25 inches over the past 90 minutes or so. The same thing happening out across parts of Clark County. That's why we have flash flood warnings in effect for Clark and Fayette until 8:30 here this evening because of those rounds of rain that have been working over the same spots again and again. And here's the thing, there's still plenty more to come. You can see it lining up and just dancing right down the interstate and moving right back into the Lexington area. So gusty winds expected with that and very heavy rains. And that's not all. Look at these thunderstorms that's been firing up over the past few minutes. We'll be tracking those as well for more impacts across southern sections of Kentucky. We'll track all of this more in detail coming up in the full forecast in a few minutes.
Jim, thank you. Now to breaking news we're tracking out of Powell County. Some people have a mess to clean up tonight because of a lightning strike. Investigators say the lightning hit a gas interchange along a pipeline near Highway 15. And while this didn't put anyone in real danger, it did spew an oily substance that landed on some nearby homes. Monique Blair is live with the breaking details. Monique?
Well, Sam and Amber, that oily residue that spewed out of the compressors at this plant behind me across the street is still a mystery. Officials say they're still not exactly sure what it is. Powell County's judge executive says it appears not to be hazardous, but it is covering several cars and homes out here and even in a pool. So those who live out here are concerned. Now, according to a statement from Kinder Morgan, after the lightning strike, the company's emergency shutdown system was activated and natural gas was safely vented into the atmosphere. A spokesperson for the company says this is exactly what is supposed to happen in a situation such as this. There was also, however, a light, fine, oily residue that came as a result of that natural gas going into the air. Powell County Judge Executive James Anderson tells me the EPA is out here right now trying to figure out exactly what this residue is and whether or not it is dangerous. Crystal Reisner lives across the street from the plant, and now that this oily substance is covering her car and in her pool, she's concerned for the safety of her family.
It's kind of aggravating having to clean everything, all the oil, and then worrying about my kids being outside in any of it, and also my outside animal as well.
Naturally, as the EPA, that'll be one of the things they look at is, first and foremost, was there anything to be concerned about, which we're told there's not. If there is, then where does that go and what's been affected by it? So.
Now, crews have spent the past 2 hours laying a sand mixture on Winchester Road because after this happened, the road was slick. But right now, Winchester Road is open, and officials say it is clean. Reporting live in Powell County, Monique Blair, WKYT.
Monique, thank you. And investigators say the lightning strike did not cause a fire and there were no injuries. Tonight, a Laurel County mother who police say went on the run with her 5-year-old son is telling us her side of the story.
The Laurel County Sheriff's Office arrested 31-year-old Jamie Allen Saturday night, hours after investigators said she drove away from them, nearly hitting a deputy. Today, Allen talked to our Hillary Thornton from jail.
I was treated pretty rough.
Jamie Allen sitting in jail facing several charges, including attempted murder of a police officer, says she acted the way she did because she feared for her life.
And then when they did come up on me, they tried to kill me.
This all starting when deputies say Allen took off from this home, a place she says she was hiding because she knew there was a warrant for her arrest for missing a court date. Taking off with her 5-year-old son, almost hitting a sergeant with her car.
Is that something you remember?
No, not that I recall, no.
Laurel County Sheriff's Office, fearing the little boy was in danger, putting out pictures of the mother and son as Allen continued to run.
Allen acknowledges she was running from deputies, but says she was doing it all for her 5-year-old son.
He knows that I'm not really a bad person. Like, he knows that I was running from the law because I missed the court date, because I didn't want to go to jail. He knows that.
Allen now in jail after deputies finding her at a friend's house, the 5-year-old still with her. Their deputies say she pulled a knife on them and got into a scuffle. Allen says she was then tased, her 5-year-old watching it all.
I mean, my little boy's probably going crazy without me because I'm all he's ever known.
Allen says she was not under the influence when this all started, but was by the time she was arrested.
Like when they come and got me at my friend's, I had drank some, but that was it.
In Laurel County, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
Allen entered a not guilty plea on attempted murder of a police officer and wanton endangerment charges.
New tonight, a grand jury has indicted a Clark County woman nearly a year after a fire at her home. Anita Raleigh has been charged with wanton endangerment and arson. The fire caused damage at her home on Kidville Road in Winchester last August. Raleigh was arraigned on the charges today. Investigators say she claimed the fire started on a kitchen stove, but they later figured out it actually started in a bedroom, and they think Raleigh set paper on fire during an argument. Investigators say there were multiple people in the home at the time, including her grandchildren.
A new social media page is creating a lot of controversy in Lexington. Today, viewers showed us an Instagram account that shows pictures of people in unflattering poses. The account claims to be bringing awareness to the homeless along South Limestone. But as Kristen Kennedy tells us new at 6, some think it's doing more harm than good.
Limestone Bum Party shows a side of South Lime you don't always see. An administrator for the Instagram page, who wouldn't talk on camera, called it a tongue-in-cheek, funny account. People living here called it accurate.
We're constantly berated.
There are a lot of them. They run in hordes. You know, they can be aggressive.
It's hard to sympathize with an individual when you go through what we do on my dog walk that I experience 4 times a day.
It is a struggle sometimes if you're a resident or business owner here to balance how to interact with them.
The owner of the account told us half a dozen business owners contribute to it and that they're trying to bring attention to a serious problem. Homeless advocate Jenny Ramsey,
we've got to change this tone,
says they're bringing the wrong kind of attention.
We've got to deal with these issues with our brothers and sisters on the street, not with just judging them and saying, oh yeah, they drink too much. If you didn't have a place to go, you might drink too much too.
City leaders say they are aware of an issue of homelessness in this area. They weren't originally aware of that page, so we showed it to them.
Taking pictures of them while they're passed out instead of calling the police or trying to get that person some help is not a productive solution.
Director of Homelessness Charlie Lanter wants the page's administrators to talk to him about the problems.
We'd love to hear from you, but this is not a productive way to do that.
The page has picked up more than 300 followers in 3 days. In Lexington, Kristen Kennedy, WKYT.
The Street Voice Council, a homeless advocacy group, invites anyone who has seen those pictures or has taken some themselves to come to their next open meeting. It is next Thursday morning at 11 at Central Christian Church.
In the last 3 years, state leaders say the number of children in Kentucky's foster care system has increased by 1,000. They say it shows how the domino effect of drug abuse is affecting the state's youngest people. WKYT's Miranda Combs has a story.
Family is so important to me.
Inside this building, hanging on a wall, is a treasure, an article about a challenging time.
That to me is more important than my graduation certificate.
The story is about how he took care of his 4 children while his wife was deployed many years ago.
It's a story about my family and how we coped with a situation that wasn't the best in the world.
So it's fitting that he'd be heading up the charge for kids with situations that aren't the best in the world.
It bothers you?
Yeah, it bothers me enough that when the opportunity came to work statewide, I was happy to do so.
They still call him Judge around here, even though technically he's Deputy Secretary Timothy Feely. He's Judge because he spent 11 years in a room like this.
A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
Day after day, he heard the same thing.
It wasn't unusual for me to hear 20 cases like that in a morning. What I found with people, particularly in the opioid addiction, is you could not believe a thing they said. They would lie to you in court. They would steal from their parents. They would steal from their grandparents. They would do anything to keep their addiction going.
Many of the children in his court ended up in state custody.
The biggest social problem we have facing the cabinet today is the drug epidemic.
I think I've got 2 more back in here that I need to sign also.
2 floors down from Feely is Commissioner Adria Johnson. She doesn't stop.
Gretchen is going for me.
She oversees the now 8,056 kids in foster care, up substantially from summer 2012 when 6,934 were in the state's custody.
We have more and more children that are coming into care.
In 60% of investigations done by the cabinet where evidence supported abuse or maltreatment, drugs were a factor.
Yeah, we've seen an increase.
A study by Kentucky Youth Advocates says Kentucky leads the nation in incarcerated parents. 13% of children in Kentucky have had a parent behind bars. That's double the national average. Many times the reason is drugs.
It's a partnership. It's a collaborative. We can't do this work by ourselves. It involves us working across all systems.
Johnson says there needs to be more treatment options in the state, more substance abuse providers, more support for a problem that's piling up and not letting up.
I think it just fuels us to get this right so we don't see as many families in crisis.
And Feely says when he was a family court judge, his rule of thumb was that he did not return a child to a parent unless the parent had been sober for 6 months. But now he says studies are saying a recovering addict needs 2 years of sobriety to really prove they've kicked the drug, which he says 2 years is too long for a young child to be in temporary custody with this state. So double-edged sword.
It is. And when you talk about foster care, I imagine many of these children were born as babies to addicted moms, right?
Right, and we've done a lot of stories on that, and Feely was saying now some 80% of kids in eastern Kentucky hospitals are born dependent now.
It's a continuing cycle, isn't it? Miranda, thank you.
We are tracking rounds of thunderstorms moving through the area right here in Lexington. We are under a flash flood warning until a little bit later on this evening with more rain to come. We'll track all of it coming up. And the storms keep coming out there on this first alert severe weather day. We are tracking the potential for more high water across a big chunk of our area here in central Kentucky and maybe even out into eastern Kentucky as well. One of the earlier flash flood warnings that came out was for folks there in Lawrence County. It's been joined by another warning, and then we've got plenty going on here in central Kentucky as well, as we've got a line of thunderstorms that have just basically been stationary over the same areas for the past couple of hours now. Right now, what we have active is flash flood warning until 8:30 tonight for Clark and Fayette counties. And you can see we are picking up on more heavy rain stretching from downtown all the way into Winchester and beyond. It goes all the way out along Interstate 64 as well. Some of the rainfall estimates over the past 90 minutes or so, according to radar, better than 1.5 inches across southern sections of Fayette County, around 1.5 inches into Clark County there around Winchester. And you go to the west end of town now, picking up a little more intense rainfall and more of those steady stationary thunderstorms, closing in on 2 inches in the past 90 minutes or so. That's some pretty impressive totals, and the problem is we've got more lined up and set to march toward us here into parts of Lexington as well. Here is a picture from Clark County that we had a little while ago. Look at that. Already seeing some flooding showing up over there. That's one picture, and another where we can see more of just the road covered up by water. You see a stop sign off in the distance, and you can see that it's well up to around halfway up that stop sign. So just to give you a good visualization of how deep that water is in Clark County. So flash flooding, an ongoing problem there. Hopefully we don't run into any more issues, but the problem is we've got more of this coming right down the pike from Frankfort and to Woodford County. These are areas that have been getting in on some of those stationary storms as well. So we could see those creeks and streams start to fill up, and hopefully we don't see a situation like we were seeing in Clark County, but we could certainly get it with the type of rain that we have tracking over the same area again and again. If you just notice, it doesn't really veer very far from that center line that I have highlighted once those thunderstorms got going. And the thing is, they're all heavy rain producers that have been passing through the area. This is what it looks like up close and personal, so you can see the intense rate of rainfall still coming down across most of Fayette County. And then as we go working our way toward the east into Clark County, it's not quite as intense as it was, but now that we're already dealing with the high water issues, it doesn't take a whole lot. Another important thunderstorm that we're watching down to our south is right there across Russell Springs. While this area hasn't been hit over and over with heavy rain over the past few hours like we have here, this is still a strong thunderstorm with a lot of rain associated with it and could very well spark some more severe weather and flash flood concerns. And then more of a scattering of thunderstorms coming together to our west, which means there's plenty of energy out there to keep these thunderstorms alive and going. Out in eastern Kentucky, it's weakened some, but you are still seeing some moderate showers, and you're a little more susceptible to flash flooding anyway due to the topography in that area where it feeds the creeks and streams and gets them full at a rapid rate. Here's our high-resolution hour by hour. Watch the training continue along Interstate 64 into central Kentucky and all the way up until 10, 11 o'clock till it eventually starts to weaken some as we head into the overnight and into the early morning hours. So we are going to be watching this and on guard for the next little bit with these thunderstorms that will not let up. And here's the problem, guys. Not only is it today's thunderstorms not letting up, we've got more chances as we go into the next several days as well. It's just like last week with the rounds of thunderstorms coming at us each day that have that flash flood potential.
We'll watch it really closely tonight and into the coming days.
Absolutely have to. Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Okay.
Just ahead, Jamal Murray returning to Kentucky.
Well, he played well in the NBA Summer League, going up against Tyler Ulis in one game. Jamal talks about it, and in 27 teams in 27 days, Somerset. The Briar Jumpers with some players in skill positions. That's next on WKYT. Jamal Murray ended up a lottery pick in the draft, and he's coming off a good performance in the NBA Summer League. He was back in town this afternoon for one of John Calipari's camps. Murray impressive in the Summer League for Denver, 29 against the Heat, and he had 29 against Phoenix. But that game against the Suns ended Summer League play for the Nuggets as Tyler Ulis hit the game-winning shot in overtime.
It was fun, because I was playing point guard as well. You know, he hit a big shot. I was disappointed, but I was happy and proud at the same time. You know, it was a tough loss, but no, happy to see him do well.
Did you say anything to him after that game? Because you thought you had no game winning.
I just told him I didn't like him. I just told him I didn't like him.
All right, Mark Stoops has his team reporting for fall camp Thursday. We are now down to 32 days, 33 days until the season kicks off at Commonwealth Stadium. 33, the number worn by George Adams, Bill Lescavar, and Chris Jones. UK kickers made 33 extra points last season on 35 attempts. And it was back in 1933 that Harry Gamage retired as UK coach. He coached 7 seasons, had a record of 32, 25, and 5. For our entire countdown, just go to WKYT.com. In Somerset, the Briar Jumpers are getting ready for a new high school football season. Brian Milam takes us down to Somerset as we continue 27 teams in 27 days.
As sure as the sun rises, the Somerset Briar Jumpers will have plenty of speed and skill where it counts. But what about the big boys up front?
The biggest thing is, if you're good up front, you're good all over the place. And we've got skill. We always have skill here, but having that offensive and defensive line will be the factor.
Offensively, the Jumpers have one major hole to fill. The graduation of Castle Hatcher is tough, but Somerset has jackrabbits all over the field and tall receivers. If Jordan Doan, the Cornets, Ty Tevis, they get the ball, look out.
Well, it just makes it easier in a well-balanced attack. You know, when we can throw and run the ball, it's harder to stop us. When we're one-dimensional, I mean, usually that's when you lose games.
A little skinny, but 6'3", 6'4" for Isaiah. Josh is probably around 6'1". Josh has been our leading receiver since a freshman. year. He's going into his junior year. He was a leading receiver as a freshman and a sophomore. Isaiah come on last year and busted loose a little bit. He's starting to get the feel back after not playing his freshman year. People haven't really seen the real Jordan Doan yet because he's not stayed healthy throughout the season. Hopefully going into his senior year, we can get past that. I think when you've seen him for 10, 11, 12, 13 games, I think you'll see what he's really capable of.
What about defense? On the ground, Somerset did give up an average of more than 200 yards a game, but they also picked off 10 passes.
I think our defense looks great, but me being a defensive player, it's a little biased, but I think our defense is, don't tell Coach Lucas I said this, but I think it's our strong point.
For 27 teams in 27 days, I'm Brian Milam.
Thank you, Brian. And Jay Bruce is no longer a Cincinnati Red. Before today's trade deadline, the Reds sent Bruce to the New York Mets for 2 minor league prospects. Bruce was hitting .265, 25 home runs. He leads the National League currently with 80 RBIs. The Mets hopeful that Bruce will give them a lift down the home stretch and into the playoffs. Sam Amber, back to you.
A final check of your First Alert forecast is next.
And then on the CBS Evening News, Singing Through Pain, how members of one choir are using their voices to overcome times of division in this country. We are seeing this stormy, wet pattern continue, and it is really putting it down at times.
Really putting it down right now, and that's why we have flash flood warnings in effect for the folks here in Fayette and into Clark counties. Just saw a report a little while ago, over the past hour and a half, 2 hours, close to 3 inches of rain falling in this general swath, guys. So we have had some pretty incredible stuff, and the problem is, if you notice there, it continues working in from the northwest, and we'll be training over the same spots.
Join us at 11 for the very latest on the weather situation.